There we go. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Happy, what are we, August 6th, 2024. I'd like to call to order the City of Fairburn Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for this evening, August 6th, 2024. Staff, will you please conduct the roll call to establish that we have a quorum present?
Absolutely. Commissioner Parker,
Present.
Commissioner James,
Present.
Acting Chairman Jones,
Present.
Commissioner Smith,
Present.
Commissioner Eccles.
Present.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for confirming that. If we would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, let's keep this thing moving. Commissioners, I assume you've had the ability to read over the agenda. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the meeting agenda for this evening.
So move, Commissioner James.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Eccles.
All right, I have a motion and a second, so I'll call this simple thing to vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those in opposition say nay. All right, the motion does carry. Thank you so much. Next on the agenda item, I assume the commissioners have had the opportunity to review the meeting minutes from our last meeting. If there are no questions or discussions, I will now entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes.
Commissioner Eccles approved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Smith, second.
Awesome. I now have a motion and a second, so I'll call this to vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve of regular meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, awesome. The motion does pass. All right. We are now opening for public comments. Please reserve your comments if it's related to a specific agenda item that we actually have on the agenda for when I call for comments on that item. Comments to the Planning and Zoning Commission should be limited to no more than 2 minutes, and groups wishing to address an issue should select 1 or 2 spokespersons. The time allowed for all issues shall not exceed a total of 15 minutes. Issues raised at this time are generally referred to the Director of Planning and Zoning for review, and responses will be provided at a later date. Again, we're opening the period for public comments, but please reserve your comments related to a specific agenda item when I call for comments on that item. We are open for public comments. All right, no public comments. All right.
Hold on, I'd like to make a public comment.
Approach.
I had turned in the paperwork, I thought that it would get to you guys.
Is it related to an agenda item?
It is an agenda item that's coming up, and you have a group of people that are going to speak on it. It's about the development over here. It's changed names several times from Landmark Village. Anyway.
Yeah, we'll address that when we get to that agenda.
Okay, let me go ahead with my public comment then, sir.
Hold on.
Mr. Chair, thank you, commissioners, for what you do. I know it can be.
Sir, we need to wait till we get to that agenda item.
Oh, we need to wait till we get to that.
So if this is just public
I am so
comment
sorry,
about
I'm
anything.
72 and I got bad ears. I got one good ear, one bad ear.
That's all right. You're no problem. You'll be right up. Hey, I like the enthusiasm. Awesome. We will have no public hearing items, right, at this time from staff. If the staff want to discuss the guidelines for that, or are we good?
Sure. Just to make a distinction, a public hearing versus a public meeting. Typically, a public hearing is for rezoning items. In this case, we have a rezoning and a concurrent variance. The public hearing will be held by City Council. Pretty much, we have a tentative date of October 14th for that rezoning public hearing. This is a public meeting. Because of the amount of folks we have here, we will try to give everybody an opportunity to come up with limited amount of minutes to say what your grievances are. We also have at the back of the room a sheet where you can talk about those items that are important to you related to this item. And we will also include this as a part of the information that is sent to mayor and city council. So if you have any comments or concerns, we will give you an opportunity during this meeting to express those. But we also have a sheet at the back of the room if you would like to write that letter to make sure that that gets to mayor and council. But just so that we're clear, this is a public meeting, not a public hearing.
And the hearing will be scheduled on October 14th for the official hearing. Okay, awesome. Old business. Do we have any old business or we don't have any updates?
We do not have any updates. We reached out to the applicant, and they have been unresponsive at this point. So I would recommend that we continue on to new business.
Okay, no old business. We're moving right into new business. Our first item of new business is as follows. The discussion of a text amendment, future land use amendment. Staff, if you would come forth and present.
Good afternoon.
Microphone.
Afternoon.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes,
There you go.
Just want to make sure I am in the mic, because the guy that handles all the mic always tells us, make sure to speak in the mic so people can hear what, and everybody forgets it, myself included. The first item before you is a text amendment. There have been a number of applicants who have requested to come into the city to do developments, and those developments have been in conflict with future land use map. Most local governments have at least a process to consider the request to amend it. Not to say that city council has to approve it, but there is at least a process to consider it with standards. In the absence of that, we have a bunch of requests, folks asking a lot of questions about kind of what development that we want to see happen. What specifically are your concerns related to new development? So I think it's really important that we just establish this process for the review. Woo. Mike, did I press the right button?
There you go. It's there.
There we go. Okay, so a comprehensive plan is the guiding document that all local governments in Georgia have. It's our blueprint for the future to a certain extent. It has a lot of goals related to housing. It has a lot of recommendations. It has our capital improvement plan. There are a lot of different elements to the comprehensive plan, and it's an extensive process to come up to that. Every local government, every 5 years, is required to update that comprehensive plan. Ours is forthcoming. We are working on getting a consultant team to look at our comprehensive plan and do the required update. In the interim, we started looking at the process that other cities and counties have for amending their future land use map. And one thing that was consistent in everybody's process was making sure that that request goes to mayor and council. It has certain requirements in terms of limiting the amount of times an applicant can come to the city and say, hey, I would like to amend it. So typically, like with a rezoning, you can't come and ask for rezoning back to back on the same parcel. There's a limitation to that. The other piece of it is the public hearing process. It's making sure that anyone who has any questions, concerns, has an opportunity to voice their concerns regarding that process. We also have the public notice process, making sure that we advertise in the newspaper, that on any public signs, things of that nature that go out, that an applicant understands and the general public understands that the applicant is requesting a rezoning and an amendment to the future land use. One of the most critical pieces to this is really the standards for review. So we looked at Douglasville, Alpharetta, Marietta, we looked at Fayetteville and all of the surrounding areas to really come up with a list that speaks to what our residents have spoken to us about in terms of their concerns, meaning things like how will this impact our utilities, our infrastructure, what are the density patterns in the surrounding area? Does this align with some of the goals that are listed in the comprehensive plan? So making sure that there's an extensive process where we can ask some of those questions to make sure that as you're reviewing this, you have that information. The applicant is required to answer all these questions. Staff, of course, will provide a recommendation that also does an analysis of all of these standards. One of the things that I think is also important is making sure that as a part of the process, if a person has a request and for whatever reason wants to defer, that we have that as a part of the process too. And then also making sure that there's a notice tied to that deferral. So if an applicant comes and says, I'm not quite ready to go before and ask that question, or we make sure that we can put out notice to the general public or re-advertise. That's probably been one of the most consistent things, because this is a really huge request for anyone to ask. Because, there's a lot of meetings and there's a lot of public input that is a part of creating the comprehensive plan. And so to deviate from that and to say, hey, this is something that's new, that the community has been asking for, that we never actually thought could be possible here, to at least have the opportunity to consider those requests, I think it's really important. Okay. Any questions for me regarding this?
So I'll open it up now here just for this text amendment piece to my fellow commissioners, if there's any questions for staff about these enhancements to our process and standards for review. I guess I'll have one question, just making sure, right? This is really just to simplify all of that, like ensuring that we have a nice, refined, and well-oiled process so that potential developers, as well as the wonderful citizens of our city, have a voice in all of this, rather than just, hey, I'd like to do this, and kind of the process may be not standard across the board. Is that a correct recap?
Yes, that is a correct recap. What we don't want to happen is for a request to come in, and it is something that the citizens want to see, but we don't have a process to even consider the amendment.
Gotcha. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah, I do. I have a
Go for it.
question. So Denise, this comprehensive plan, I know, again, it was established in 2021. We have an update date of October 25th, 2025. Is this an annual update or review of the plan? Do we do this every year, or is this just?
Well, the comprehensive plan update is the update to the entire document, and that has to come, I think it's every 5 years. We have to send it to the Atlanta Regional Commission and to the Department of Community Affairs. They all look at that document, make sure that we've dotted all of our I's, make sure that all the required elements are there. And there's also a extensive process required in terms of having public meetings that are advertised, that the general public knows about it. And I think it's a really great opportunity. There's been a lot of changes that happened in the city, and people have a lot of new ideas, and residents want to see a lot of new things happen. So the comprehensive plan, the update to the entire plan and map, that will probably start in the next couple months once we get our consultant on board. But this is just a request if an applicant comes in and says, hey, I have this project, it doesn't align with the future land use, but it does align with your goals, and it does align with the standards, for us to at least be able to consider it.
Again, I thank you, because I always see the foresight, and you're proactive rather than reactive, you and your team. So I really do appreciate this. This is a great idea.
Any other questions from my fellow commissioners?
No question.
Okay, none at the time. Thank you, staff. Appreciate it.
Motion? Okay.
Good.
Is there a recommendation to continue with the process and take this to mayor and council?
Oh, yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm just letting you sit down.
Oh, okay. Well, we only have 2 agenda items, so
Yeah, I
I'll be
know.
up here for a little bit.
Okay, you want to stay up there? That's great. Okay.
Point of order, this is just a discussion item though, right? You're not seeking a
No, we
motion
can.
per se, or are you?
Well, I was seeking feedback on it, so if there's any concerns, things like that, we can go ahead and begin drafting it and have that to you at the next meeting.
Yeah, there's no concern. That's what I was going to ask. There's
Yeah.
no need to take a motion
It's
and a
just
vote for this.
discussion item.
Okay.
So it'll come back in a more formal,
Okay.
on the agenda, future agenda.
Okay. Well, thank you. We appreciate the input, and thank you, fellow commissioners.
More feedback?
Our second item of new business, probably the one most folks are here for, all right, is the rezoning Poplar Commons landmark applicant Freedom Land Holdings LLC. From a procedural perspective, I assume staff will go with your comments, questions from the applicant, and then we'll open it up for public comment with that from a procedural perspective, and each person's limited to 2 minutes.
Yes.
Okay, sounds great. Why don't you go ahead, staff?
Okay. The applicant is Freedom Landing Holdings LLC. They're requesting to rezone parcels from residential and ag to RCT, residential condominium townhouse district. The applicant has also submitted a concurrent variance to waive the 25-foot buffer requirement along the public right-of-way. The project is located in just south of Landmark. It is a request to build single-family homes, 31. The applicant initially came to the city and requested townhomes, but after a few public meetings and some public input, they decided to change the request from townhouses to single-family. They are requesting approval to build 31 homes. The request for the alignment to the future land use map, there's a bit of an issue. The future land use map calls for town center mixed use on 2 of the parcels, and the 4 acres that are south are designated as rural residential. So there is a conflict with the future land use map. Our utility department, our engineers have all looked at the request, and they did have some conditions that they wanted to be associated with the request. We have done quite a few analysis of it. At this time, there's not a recommendation for a transportation study, but as the project moves further along, if it is approved by mayor and council, that is one of the things that I think is probably going to be very important. But that is, our traffic engineers at this point have not recommended that. The applicant has provided elevations that show kind of what the general concept is for it. In terms of the public meetings and that process, we heard a lot of feedback regarding wanting to have some elevations that had a bit more distinction. There were some concerns regarding utilities, traffic, crime, property values. During both of those public meetings, those comments were very extensive, and they had quite a few folks there, so we just want to make sure that that part is mentioned. The standards for review for rezoning in the city of Fairburn are extensive. We look at alignment with our comprehensive plan. We look at surrounding developments, density patterns. This would probably be one of the more denser developments being proposed in that area. So there is a distinction between the current land use patterns and what this applicant is proposing. In terms of staff recommendation, we have quite a few conditions just to make sure that we've been consistent with other requests we've received for rezonings. One of the things that I think is really important, and one of the comments we got from the general public, was that there are no amenities associated with this. So it's a higher density, but there are no parks and things like that. So we are recommending that a passive park or some sort be included as a part of the development. We're also requesting that the exterior materials consist of brick, masonry, stone, wood, or hardy, carriage-style garage doors, because some of the developments are proposing to have garage as forward-facing, so we want to make sure to be consistent with our previous recommendation for previous applicants. But in terms of our general analysis, staff is recommending approval of the parcels that align with our comprehensive plan. So that's parcel ID that ends in 332, 340, and 357. But the 4.9 acres that is designated as seen on the map as rural residential, staff cannot support that request because it does not align with the comprehensive plan. That information has been provided for you. I know that's a lot of information all at once, but if there are any specific questions for staff, I'm happy to answer that, and the applicant is also here and available to answer any questions.
So commissioners, open this up for questions for staff at this moment.
Commissioner Smith, do you know the distance between the proposal of building the housing and Landmark School?
It is just south of it. It's really close to Landmark.
Like, how many feet? You know, how much?
I don't know the exact feet, but it is owned by Landmark, the 4 acres that are just south.
And we'll bring the applicant up here as well to ask those questions that many may know. But in continuing with questions for staff from our fellow commissioners.
No questions at present for me.
Can you go back to the map? That's like the proposal, but go back to the actual map. So the 2 there in the corner, the 2 pink ones, right?
Parcels.
Yeah, parcels, sorry.
Good.
Right, those are the ones, right, certainly that there is a staff recommendation, but for the larger one, that's where it doesn't. Can you explain a little bit more how that does not align to the future land use development?
Yes. The rural residential future land use designation calls for a lower density.
Okay.
So we're looking at maybe one house per acre, looking for more farm-type development. This request is a higher density proposal, so it does not align with the comprehensive plan.
Okay. So it's more of a density issue really than anything related like utilities or things like that at this point, right?
That's correct. Our utility department has reviewed the request, and the applicant was required to provide a flow test. And the applicant will also be required to put in a stormwater detention pond and upgrades that would be required to make sure that the current capacity and future capacity for this area would be sufficient. And there's a extensive process after a development kind of gets through the public hearing process. Now, not to say that it'll be approved, but any development that's coming in, if it was permitted by right, they would have to provide civil drawings that have quite a few documents prepared by an engineer that attest to where you're trying to put the proposed water lines, where you're putting the sewer lines, what infrastructure are you putting in, and our engineers would be a part of that process, reviewing all of those documents to make sure that they're meeting all of those requirements.
Okay. Go back to the next slide, the one that,
Wait.
go ahead, yeah, go for it.
On this one. So Denise, the area in yellow, that is rural residential, on average, what is that acreage again?
4 acres. It's 4.91 on the survey provided.
And we are suggesting, again, 1 home per acre.
Typically in our rural residential, it is about 1 home per acre.
Okay, versus.
This, of course, is a lot more than that, so.
Got it, okay.
Next, just go to the next slide if you don't mind. Sorry, the one with the, looked like it had a pond on it, sorry.
You're good.
There we go. Have we done any sort of, I would say, runoff studies, or that be a requirement? I know it's quite of a sloped property, and even just now with regular, rainfall, it can cause some flooding type of issues there on the roadway. Is that part of the conditions, or has that already been done?
It has not been completed, but it is one of the conditions. Typically, the hydrology study is prepared if the request is approved, because there are some requirements to make sure that whatever is on the site stays on the site, and to make sure that that happens, their engineers would have to give us documents showing exactly how the site will be laid out, construction. Our engineers would look at it to make sure that it adheres, and this applicant and the developer is solely responsible for any cost associated with that.
Okay. And then the entrance there clearly is off of Milo Fisher only, not off of the major thoroughfare, as I see that. Just wanted to confirm that verbally.
Yes, that was one of the comments from the first public meeting. There was a lot of concerns regarding traffic. I think there still are some concerns regarding traffic, but the applicant initially did have an entrance, and then they removed that as a part of making sure that some of those public comments were included as a part of the revisions to this proposal that's in front of you.
Okay. Other questions for staff?
What would be the suggested square footage of the average home here?
They are requesting the RTHC zoning district, and I believe the minimum lot size for that is 3,000 square feet, and they would meet the minimum requirements for that zoning district. They're not proposing anything larger, and single-family homes are permitted in that zoning district along with townhouses.
So the minimum square footage based upon the zoning request of of the 31 homes would be 3,000 square feet. So those are pretty large homes.
I
in
would
a
say
dense area.
lots. So
Okay.
we're not talking about homes, we're talking about lots.
Oh, was your question lots or homes?
Well, I was asking about the square footage of a home.
I believe the minimum square footage for this zoning district is 1,200 square feet.
Okay.
They are meeting the minimum requirement.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Parker, I have a
Go ahead.
question.
Yeah, go for it.
Do we know the price point for these homes?
That information is not required as a part of this process, but the applicant is here and available to answer those kinds of questions.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? The applicant, the fellow commissioners, do you want to ask some questions of the applicant?
The applicant.
Yeah, so if we could have the applicant come forward. Just name and address, standard procedure, and then you can give us the pitch, and then we'll have some questions, of course.
Absolutely. We've got a PowerPoint to pull up. My name's Stephen Jones. I'm with the law firm of Taylor English Duma. I just 1600 Parkwood Circle, Atlanta, Georgia. Accompanied today by Mr. James Nicholson with the applicant, the home builder, and one of the property owners, as well as the engineer of record for the property, Steve Moore of Moore Bass. I don't have their addresses memorized. I probably should at this point, but we'll give them. I want to get this application, the PowerPoint pulled up if we could. We're calling this Poplar Commons. Freedom Land Holdings, just to give you a background, it's a local builder or a land holding company for a local builder, Jeff Lindsay Communities, as well as Freedom Builders. They're based in Sonoy, build all over on the south side of town, have built in Fairburn as well. Mr. Nicholson will talk about some of their existing product when he comes up. I wanted to bring all of us up here. We're really excited about this project, about Fairburn. To one of the commissioner's questions, this property is located just directly south of part of Landmark Christian's campus. You'll see that, well, my pointer's not gonna work on the TV.
It's fine.
But you can see the Landmark Christian School, part of the campus is highlighted in white. Our site is highlighted in yellow. We're directly to the south. We really view this project as a very great addition to the Landmark Christian School's contribution to the city. We see this as a great place for parents, faculty members to live within walking distance of the school. There are other similar private schools in the area which have a great housing stock that provides that residential option to staff, to parents, to students that want to live close to school or may live far enough away that it justifies them or makes sense for them to have a place in town directly adjacent to the campus. And so we really think this is a fantastic opportunity to provide that, but not just for those. We think it's a great product. If you look at Jeff Lindsay and Freedom Builders product throughout the South Side, they really build a quality product. They're not the national box that you see. It's stuff with accents. And if you check out their stock on the website, it's a full range of product mixes. And so we're just really happy to be here and hope you will like our project as much as we do. Going over the site plan, we're going to the RCT zoning district. I want to take 1 second to talk about the future land use map issue because there were some questions and hinting on that. Previously on your agenda, you had a amendment to permit a procedural mechanism for the future land use map and the comprehensive plan to be amended at the request of an applicant. We've done that here. If you look at that future land use map, you've got the town center on 2 of these parcels directly adjacent, and a vast array of the other adjacent parcels also have a similar designation. So we're asking for that. And at the end of this presentation, we will ask you to recommend conditional approval. I know that that future land use map issue might be an issue, but we would ask you to recommend approval conditioned upon the council also amending the future land use map so you can tie it together and that that's not a procedural impediment to your recommendation should you choose to make that recommendation. As part of this project, we found an existing right-of-way for Church Street, which lines up to the north with right-of-way that is directly adjacent to Landmark Christian School's entrance to part of the campus. We're going to, as part of this, relocate that entrance and move it just directly to the northeast so it lines up with that Church Street right-of-way. We'll then extend the city right-of-way, you'll see all the way to the south, to the eyebrow that faces the green space. And then there'll be a public street going to the cul-de-sac on the other side so that all the homes have public road frontage. The other homes that I'll show you in the rendering, the ones that front on the State Highway and Milo Fisher, will front on those public roadways, but then they've got an internal driveway that accesses Milo Fisher. You'll see just to the southwest of that 4 block that fronts on Milo Fisher, as well as it comes down and connects to the Church Street extension. We've got shared parking there, as well as the central mailbox unit. And then to the south, where you see the stream course, as well as the pond. It's going to be a passive, nature area, which together with the buffer constitutes about 33% of the site. We plan to do in conformance with your ordinance, a gazebo, an observation area, so you can overlook that stream course and enjoy it. This is really an in-town project, so we don't think it's a fit to do a more robust amenity, because we want to be tied into Landmark's campus, walkability for the entire city, but we did want to utilize the natural stream course in the back to incorporate it and not just, it's a stream, so. Again, they're 45-foot wide lots, and so you'll see you've got, again, as I mentioned, you've got a vast array of the 31 lots fronting on existing public right-of-ways with those internal easement drives. 33% of the site, as I mentioned, is open space, and that's part of the buffer, as well as the preserved natural stream course. Clicker stuck. So at this slide, this is an aerial rendering, gives you a nice feel for the internal site as well as where it fronts. I want to take this opportunity, I want to introduce James Nicholson, give him an opportunity to talk about Jeff Lindsay Communities, Freedom Builders, who they are, their product, elaborate.
Council members, my name is James Nicholson. I'm with Freedom Builders and Freedom Land Holdings, 140 Village Circle, Sonoy, Georgia is our location. We're excited about the opportunity to be a part of this development. We built the remaining homes in Trotter's Farm just down the road, and we're also building in Chat Hills and in South Fulton and other areas, and we also build in Coweta, Fayette, Douglas, Henry, and Clayton County. We're a local builder. We're not a national chain. We're home-based out of Sonoy, and we are proud of our product, and we're really proud of our reputation of building a solid home. And we're, again, excited about this project and look forward to working with the city and the community and improving. Everywhere we've been, we've always improved the subdivision or the location. That's one of our key things that we focus on. It's always trying to make it better than what it was when we found it. I'm open to any questions or any.
And does he want to speak as well? And then we can do all of it at once, yeah.
I want to introduce Steve Moore, the project engineer, and then I want to come back. I've got a few slides I want to show you on renderings. I want to talk about staff recommended conditions.
Okay.
Good evening. Steve Moore, Moore-Bass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. Happy to be here. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us. On this project, I've had the opportunity to be involved since the beginning on this project when Jeff Lindsay and James originally brought this to us. And the plan has gone through a lot of iterations since our first plan. The first application we filed under this zoning district was for 42 units of attached townhomes. Once that was filed, it was recommended by Denise, a good recommendation, that we have a community meeting, which we did at Landmark Christian, and was well attended. And we got a lot of input from the citizens during that meeting. We went back to the drawing boards, and Denise nailed it. The topics that were discussed: traffic, utilities, crime, a lot of those things. So we did take that into consideration, went back to the drawing boards, and we did away with the townhomes and created a layout that was similarly configured as the first layout, but they were all single-family detached lots. Had an access out that lined with Poplar Street at East Campbellton. That was a big source of contention from some of the residents about the dangerous nature of that area and how busy that area gets. And so we had another community meeting to present that plan, had a little bit less attended, but we still had a lot of comments and a lot of good discussion during that meeting. And then we went back to the drawing board one more time, and that's the plan that we're presenting to you tonight, which has that access solely connecting to Milo Fisher. We felt like it at least addressed some of the concerns as best we could. Landmark, who owns one of the large tracts that's part of this application, desires to sell that property. We believe that they're going to sell that property to somebody who's going to want to develop this. I think that Jeff Lindsay Communities and Freedom Land Holdings is the right group to develop this property. I've represented a lot of zonings in a lot of municipalities, and it's never a problem to say Jeff Lindsay Communities is going to be building these houses because they have such a good track record and a good reputation, unlike some other big names that I won't mention that somewhat are challenging to defend. One other thing that I'll say too about the size of the lots. I lived in a 42-foot wide lot in downtown McDonough. It was a traditional neighborhood layout, very similar to this, rear accessed, shared driveways, but that is indicative and very consistent with small downtown areas. They don't build on acre lots, downtown Fayetteville or downtown Fairburn. And so that size lot is not out of character, at least for a infill downtown area. And what we were trying to do is create that look of that walkable downtown, old town feel with pushing those houses up to the street and then having all of the access to the rear, no driveways out to East Campbellton. So that was the intent behind the design. I think this is a far superior layout than the townhomes. I think the townhomes would have significantly been a stretch to call that infill T&D or traditional neighborhood design. This, I think, does emulate that. And so with that, like I said, we've taken the units started out at 42 units. We're down to 31 units. Again, all in an effort to try to at least be good corporate citizens and try to listen as best we could. We have done some of the studies that are in the staff report. We did have a fire flow test done at the city's direction. That test came back good with good results with no pressure concerns. So I know that as far as the staff report, that's one item that has been checked off the box. And if traffic study is warranted, certainly that's something we're willing to add to the list as well. So thank you again. Look forward to talking soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
So you've heard the iterations that the plan's gone through. We've really worked, as we do in all efforts and all applications and projects that Freedom Builders does, to make sure we try to get it right. And that's indicative of where we started and where we've ended up. In your packet tonight, you've got a very thorough and well-reasoned staff report. And I don't want to put words in staff's mouth, but the way I read it was, it's conditional approval, but for the future land use map incompatibility. And so that's why, as I started out the meeting, I'm going to ask you to echo staff's recommendation, but take it one step further and say, can you recommend approval with all of staff's recommended conditions to which the applicant consents, subject upon that future land use map amendment? And that then, I think, fixes the procedural issue that we see and would enable Freedom Builders to bring what we think is a great project to the city of Fairburn. Now I want to end with the streetscape. One of staff's recommended conditions is for us to make sure that those porches are 6 foot deep so that it does give that traditional in-town feel, trying to replicate an old, organically developed traditional neighborhood. Also, another one of staff's recommended conditions to which we consent is to ensure that elevations are not repeated in a fashion that looks production. And what we'll do there is, and you see some of this here, this is just an illustrative rendering, but what we do is even when there is plans repeated, we change materials, we flip features, change different elements and architectural features. So inside, it's the same plan, but outside, when you look at all of the things that catch your eye, right, it looks completely different. And but for going inside and seeing the floor plan, you would never know. So that's how we accomplish that. You'll see the intersection here. One thing I want to point out is another one of staff's conditions is and this is to also replicate that in-town feel, the traditional, that was organically developed a lifetime ago, is that all of the mechanical features, such as HVAC, are screened, and so that you can't see them from the public right-of-way. We think that accomplishes it. That's why we're consenting to the condition. This is internal to the site. So what's really cool is about the way that this product is laid out. On the street frontage, you do get that old town feel. But when you're inside, since these are rear-loaded lots, you still get the modern amenity and the modern requirement of the market of two-story garage, extra parking, central mailbox unit, which Postmaster General now requires. And then, you know, traditional curb gutter, all the good stuff. So we think it's really the best of both worlds. You can see another internal shot here. And then, so that's internal to the site. So again, you get inside, away from the public right-of-way. You get the best of a new development while facing the public right-of-way. You get the organically developed feel. Just another view of that internal road. And then that's looking interior across the pond. And you know, we'd like to use that. Would be a stormwater pond, but the intent is always to have it operate and function and look like it's a natural feature, which is what you see on the renderings here. And just to end on State Highway 92, East Campbellton, this is the look you see. So you see of the repeating elevations, repeating materials, you get that organic craftsman, I call it the Sears catalog look, because that's the way that they were done then. So again, we're really proud of it. We'd ask that you follow staff's recommendation with that one caveat so that you can bring it to a full conditional approval with all of staff's recommended conditions, subject to that future land use map amendment. If the commissioners have any questions of me, of the company, or our engineer, we'd love to answer those. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of Fairburn on our existing project and this project. We hope that we have earned your approval.
Awesome. Very thorough, thank you. Commissioners, I'll now open that up for questions of the applicant.
Commissioner Smith, do you know how far is the distance between the proposed building to the school?
Yes, Commissioner, let me go back so I can show you a slide if I get my clicker to work. Church Street, where it intersects Milo Fisher, directly across the road is the school. So to our first lot is 100 feet? Yeah. And you come down Church Street, it's maybe 800 feet to the back of that cul-de-sac. So that's why we really think it's a natural, organic kind of tie-in. It's walkable to the school.
My next question is, did you guys have a town hall meeting or some sort of meeting with Landmark leadership?
We did Landmark attend.
Did y'all have a meeting, a public meeting with the leadership of Landmark about your proposal to build these townhouses?
Yes, my understanding is that they've been involved in all the public meetings, as well as the project. They are a landowner on this application.
So they are on board with it?
We've heard no objections to the project as it sits. No, Commissioner.
Other questions?
Can we go back to maybe a few pictures back where we could, well, you know, that one there, that's one of my questions. Those parking spaces, is that guest parking there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is there just one spot for guest parking, or do you have that in a couple of areas throughout?
Yeah, so you've got your two-car garage, you've got your driveway, and then this is extra overflow parking. And then you've also got the public right-of-way. And you have two, so let me go back to, you can see it barely on the site plan. You see the one just to the north, that's the one we were looking at with the landscaped eyebrow. And then to the south of, or to the east, northeast of that cul-de-sac, you can see the other set.
So one is the mail area, and the second is just parking? It's extra parking.
Typically, it's about one space per 2 units for guest parking, and we have roughly that calculation, maybe a little bit more.
Okay. I have another question.
Go for it.
One entry point, right? The sole entry on Milo Fisher?
There's two.
There's two. There's an easement alley on Milo Fisher as well. If you'll see, there's two arrows, or the northernmost arrow points to one. It's pointing to buffer on that picture.
And the alley access would be a one-way.
Okay.
So alley access just is exit only, right? So everybody comes in up on the Church, I didn't even know that was called Church Street, which was there, which it's really not a street, it's an entrance to the school, but into the Church Street, right? They would come in there, so essentially just serves as a loop, a one-way, basically, loop into the community. I mean, they could go out both ways on the Church Street, right? But for those folks that are down there, they're gonna come in and always go out that bottom entrance. Is that an accurate recap?
That's correct.
Okay, from a residential traffic flow.
I would say for the people who face East Campbellton and Milo Fisher, just for those lots, I wouldn't think anybody else would use that as a
Yeah.
means of egress. And let me say one more thing too about the Church Street. We didn't know it was there either,
Yeah, no
until we
one-
did a survey.
Yeah.
And we said, well, gosh, the city has a right-of-way that they own, that they've dedicated. Clearly, the intent was for that road at one point to be extended. And so we felt like we've done at least what was in the city's original master plan of how they wanted streets laid out. We're at least improving a majority of that road. And if there is ever a desire on the city to extend it, then at least some of the hard work has already been done.
I know it was asked early if you guys know what the price point would look like. Have you given any thought to that?
Based on today's market, they're probably gonna start right around high threes, low fours.
And compared to the surrounding homes, is that comparable?
That's what we're seeing. As far as any new construction just in the area, like.
Well, I mean, I'm asking because I know a lot of
Because
times.
the prices that everybody knows.
Right.
It's hard to build affordable housing, and yet it's hard to build affordable housing anymore. I mean, we're trying to, I didn't share this earlier, but both my kids attended Landmark for a short period of time, and I live in Noonan, which is just down the road. And if something like this was available when my kids were there, I would have bought one, because, I mean, the atmosphere and everything with Landmark School, I know y'all are probably familiar with it. I mean, a lot of the parents are heavily involved, and I was there a lot, involved with supporting the school in any way I could, and with all the activities of the kids. So, I mean, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for family. Not that that's our only buyer we're looking at. We're looking at anybody. I mean, we're open to marketing to
You
anyone.
got another question, Jason?
Yeah, but Commissioner Eccles, go for it.
I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Are these homes, did I hear it right, these homes are specifically for Landmark
No,
personnel?
ma'am. No, we're marketing to
Anyone?
anyone.
Oh, okay.
It's not marketed to, toward any specific group. It's marketed to everyone.
And they're all.
I was just
two-story-
saying that it would have been a great opportunity if
There's certainly a need in the market.
a need. I feel like personally, that's one reason, that one of the reasons I voted to, as far as our company goes, to pursue it, is because I saw the need while I was there. And I feel like it's a good opportunity, to improve the area and offer.
And all the homes are two-story homes?
That's correct.
Okay.
Other questions?
I have a question.
Commissioner?
Let me be clear about something was said earlier with Ms. Brookins. The average home is 1,200 square feet?
No, sir, they're going to be upward of 2,400 square feet
Okay.
and above. We're over exceeding the minimum square footage.
All right, thank you.
That's just the minimum required, and our plan is 2,400 or more.
Okay, so just to recap, the city's minimum requirement for everywhere is 1,200 square feet. The intent of this development is to be 2,400 square feet. Okay, just wanted to make sure, recapping that. Other questions for the applicant?
I did have one question, and it's in relation to Highway 92. Looking at this, they're not going to exit on 92 or enter on 92. But that traffic light that's already there, it only allows maybe 2 cars to go through it. So I do believe a traffic study is needed, because I do know that's going to be a
Yes, ma'am.
more traffic.
Yes, and if that comes as a condition, we're happy to provide that, and I am certain that they will take signal timing into consideration, especially, peak times and during school hours, and it'll even be different when school's out for the summer. They should adjust the timing to account for that. But yes, we're certainly happy to provide that.
And I'm pretty sure I read in here, there will be an HOA.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, set up, perfect.
Okay. If there's no other questions, thank you. You all can have a seat. And now,
Thank you, Commissioners.
yeah, thank you. We'll open it up for public comments. Do we have a list of people, Denise? How do we want to call them up? And your public comments, by the way, just, we've got a lot of stuff going on here. Limit those to 2 minutes. If you do have a group and you want to assign a spokesperson, that would be amazing as well.
I would recommend we start with Mr. Brooks at 33 Cole Street, Fairburn, Georgia, because that was the first sheet that was dropped off.
Sounds good.
Are there other speakers?
No, not yet.
No.
Not yet.
Mr. Chairman, I exceed my 2 minutes?
Sure. I'll give you 3. How's that? A little bit.
Oh, thank you, because, with this presentation, gosh, I'm ready to buy one, aren't you? You got a sales job. Mr. Nichols, he was here last month with the golf course going on down here. Business is good, and this sounds like from top down. It sounds like what we call a little home cooking. It's almost too good to be true. That if you look at the information that this company sent to the residents that showed up at Landmark Christian for the meeting with the public, they said in the letter, 3 partials, but they only listed 2. And when the question was raised twice, Mr. Nichols said it was a misprint, and on today's agenda, it's listing 4 partials. We're asking, or I should say me, I'm speaking for myself, not for my neighbors. This development, this computer-generated images they put up with the canopy and the way it looks, it's beautiful. I would ask you to go to the site. There's no traffic light at the intersection. The traffic light I think you're talking about is at East Broad Street in 92, before the bridge and after the bridge. You can't turn right on red. They're not in sync, so that it's a congestion. Milo Fisher, if you don't exit onto 92, you can only exit, and you're going to build Church Street out. You're going to have Milo Fisher in 92. It's already a problem, and I don't want to go item by item, but my neighbors can share with you their concern. This is a cookie-cutter development. You're tearing down paradise. It's not consistent with what the code is already. It's not the area's character. It encourages single-family homes on acreage. It's agriculture. Please, we're asking for a no recommendation to City Council to develop this out. The congestion, it's too dense. It's a headache. They talk a good game, but in reality, look around at some of their developments. They talk a good game, but look and go online and see what the reviews are on some of their homes that they built in some of their communities. Anyway, I'd like to wrap it up with saying, as a friendly reminder, if you're affiliated with Landmark Christian, please recluse yourself from any further involvement on this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments?
Yes, I believe the gentleman there would like to make a public comment. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Ron Alderman, and I live at 91 Poplar Street. And this is named Poplar Commons, which I appreciate them changing the entrance out on 92 because it was coming right into my street, Poplar Street. I've been there since 1968 and served on City Council 14 years. And one of the big problems that I see with this, most of the people here that are opposed to this, and a lot of people that have been at other meetings, are probably 70, 75, or 80. I'm over 80 myself. And my assessment on my property is less than half of what they're going to be asking for the property, $400,000. And so the homes in this area are not conducive to what they're building. Most of the homes are more than 1,200 square feet already. So this is downsizing to 1,200 square feet. And I cannot see somebody from Landmark leaving their home, buying a 1,200 square foot house in this kind of a situation just so their kids can walk to school. I had a real estate office on Campbellton Street for probably 25 years, and I retired in 2019. And when I put my sign up in the yard, I had several people from Landmark stop and, well, they called me on the phone, and one lady from Douglasville said, I'd be interested in it, and she said, well, I don't think that I can afford to buy that and have my home in Douglasville too, and I can't give up both houses. So I just don't believe that this is going to be something that a lot of Landmark people are going to buy. And as far as walking to school, our kids went to that Fairburn Elementary when it was an elementary school there and changed into a high school. Crime is on the upbeat. I don't think kids are going to be walking to school by themselves. Landmark runs a bus a lot of times, to pick people up, and the size of these streets in here I don't think is going to be conducive to a bus. And the traffic lights already been mentioned. I was late getting here. I live on Poplar Street, and I've been trying, I've called DOT, I don't know how many times, trying to get that light squared away at Alice Pizza. If it's green up there, it's red on East Broad Street. If it's red here, it's green up there, and you cannot get through there. So what I do, I turn and go up Milo Fisher to the school, take a right. My church is First Baptist, and try to get to my church that way, around that way. Well, now we're going to have 62 additional cars because 31 times 2, and everybody has 2 cars, and I'm assuming they have 2-car garage. But what if some of these people have boats and trailers and stuff? Where are they going to park them? It's just too small for the project. I mean, the houses, there are too many houses for what they're trying to do. And people that go to Landmark, I'm sure probably 8 out of 10 of them have a motor home or at least a boat or something, to get away on the weekend. And so I don't know where they're going to park them. So this project is not conducive to our area. Monetarily wise, traffic wise, I'm sure that they can meet the requirements, whatever the city has as far as water and sewer and that kind of thing. I'm hoping they can. But whenever the assessors in Fulton County see $400,000 houses going up there, and my property is less than half of what that is, I don't want my taxes to go up because all that City of Fairburn gives you is $1,000 assessment, a rebate on your assessment for senior citizens. My taxes in Fairburn this past year were 25 times what Fulton County's tax were. I mean, it's just pitiful. And I don't want my property to go up to $400,000, for a 1,200 square foot house when my house is larger than that. And I don't want to be run out of my house.
Sir,
because people that,
Point of order, like we're at 5 minutes and it's normally 2, so if you could wrap it up in like the next 15 seconds, just from a procedural perspective. We have to limit these to 2 minutes, and
yeah.
we've let you go to 5, which is fine, right? We're letting everybody go a little longer.
Well, let me just close by saying that
Hold on.
if the taxes keep going up and they start assessing our property, it's going to run a lot of these senior adults out of that neighborhood and make them go somewhere else if they can. If I was going to leave Fairburn, I'd have left a long time ago. I've been here since '68. And I enjoy Fairburn, still enjoy Fairburn. I enjoyed my time on council, enjoyed knowing all the people, and as far as I know, I have a good relationship with everybody in Fairburn. So I just don't want to leave, and I don't want to be forced out of my house, because of my taxes and the fact that I can't even get to my church now hardly. And then we add all the extra cars on Milo Fisher, and that's not going to be good.
All right.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Mr. Holloman.
We don't ask, do we ask questions
No, I
in
just
public
want to
comment?
correct him. Right.
Okay.
Did you know that they said that it's going to be 2,400 square feet, not 1,200? 1,200 is just the average, a minimum requirement by city.
Right here it says heated floor area, 1,200 square foot.
That's the city's minimum.
Minimum,
Their intent is to build 2,400.
400 square
right,
feet.
intent.
I asked that question.
Yeah.
Two-story,
Yeah.
two-story, okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Other public comments? We're going to try to limit these.
I think we have a gentleman in the back who would like to come up, and we have two more, I believe. Are you?
Yep.
Oh, you can come up.
And just out of respect for all the time, really try to limit it to 2 minutes. We've gone over. I know I can talk for 20, but let's try to do our best. Thank you.
We're doing that. I'm Linda Sharko. My husband Tony and I were very directly impacted by this because we live across the street on the other side of Campbellton, in the corner of Pine Street. And while we're very excited for this area to have more housing and develop because we think we need it in our area, we're very concerned about the volume that's coming in here. The density is what we feel like is so inappropriate because our area of Fairburn has got a wonderful community, small time atmosphere where people, you know, there's still a lot of nice little houses and it's a comfortable thing, and we think that would be wonderful to develop, but we feel like this is too much. Our two biggest issues that we're concerned about is the septic system that's in Fairburn, and how even currently it's a major problem on occasion, and that if something will be maybe major aggravated by this. And also, as we've already brought up, the traffic, which is an issue with this. So that'd be our concern. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Other public comments? Pat, sir?
My name is Pat Dowland. I live at 65 Poplar Street, and I know some of you. Think about this. Would you like to have this in your neighborhood? Okay, and I'm also considering the possibility of wanting to spend $400,000 so I can sit out my back door and watch the traffic go by. Listen, Landmark is a plus for us. It has been a plus, it is a plus, it will continue to be a plus. There is property there that can be utilized to build housing appropriate for the circumstance. But I just don't think that this particular section that runs along East-West Campbellton, Highway 92, that's going to provide some challenges, I think. So I just hope that these folks would reconsider this proposal. There's land there, they can build houses, but I think they might be more appropriate in keeping with the nature of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. We're back on track. Other comments?
Any other comments?
Rock on. Just your name and your address, and then 2 minutes.
Noah Ballard. I live at 504 Willow Creek Road. I've lived in Fairburn all my life. I enjoy living here. It's always been home. And I want what's best for Fairburn. And this development drastically changes the character of our neighborhood in this area. It is a real departure from what we see around that part of town. I'd love to see this part of Fairburn downtown be revitalized, have kind of the active streetscape and life that we see in smaller towns around the south side of Atlanta. But this isn't the kind of development that's going to bring that. And especially with a developer like this that's kind of cut corners at every step of this process, at least on the forward-facing side of this, whether it has been branding that they initially put before the public or those errors that were mentioned earlier in the letters that they've sent to the public, that's the kind of stuff that is sloppy, it's lazy, and that's the kind of developer that wants to change the neighborhood that we're in here, or the character of the neighborhood here in Fairburn. We see it tonight in the slides they had up. They misspelled school. You're putting that before the commission to get approval for something, and you can't even get that right. I'd be really concerned about the rest of the process as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for everybody, I know we've heard a lot of different terms, right? This is the Planning and Zoning Commission. We are not City Council, right? So I think we've heard these terms tossed around from some of the public comments and others, right? So there's other, City Council does other things, right?
I think we have one more comment in the.
One more comment?
Mhm.
I am Sharko, 40 East Campbellton Street, Fairburn. Built my house in '68, came to America in 1950, and having fun with this thing, trying to figure out what you Americans are trying to do. My hat's off to these young men, and my hat's off to y'all, trying to do, because 40-some odd years ago, I tried to come up here. I was a foreigner. Nobody wanted me. So I went and played in the dirt. That's the reason I'm a little dirty here and that. So like I said, these folks have not lived with that land for the last 50-something odd years or better. Sewer lines in that area are not a straight line to the treatment plant. It's a Z formation from the corner of Milo Fisher and 92 to behind my house to the treatment plant. And I don't know if y'all realize it, but you have an exploding sewer. We get the right type of rain situation, up comes the sewer lid, and somebody's going to drive into that hole, and the city's going to have a liability. Don't know what causes it, but it's there. The intersection of Milo Fisher and 92 is not at right angles to each other. Come down Milo Fisher and try to take a tractor trailer truck and make that turn, you're going to take out that telephone pole in the corner. Come out of Pine Street on my house and go up to town, your tire's going to bump into it because they're sitting at an angle with each other. You put 32 houses there, need more people trying to get in and out of there. It's going to be fun. We also have had one death on that intersection. The neighborhood houses there vary in size and value. We don't need apartments. We got the government houses up the street, and we got semi-apartments up Pine Street, and people have taken them and made them into personal residence. It's a nice old community, old area, old houses. Everything's nice. Build some new houses that look old. And then last thing, there's a hidden wet spring on that piece of property. A wet spring is a spring that surfaces when we have a tremendous amount of water. And then the other thing, there's a 100-year-old roadbed on that piece of property. Go look for it. See you later.
Thank you. I like that. That was great.
Any more comments? I don't think we have any more comments from the general public.
Okay. Applicant?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would just say keep it at 3 minutes if you can.
2 would be preferred, but you'll give you 3.
I got the timer. I'm going to try.
Okay.
We're certainly sensitive to the comments that we heard from the public tonight. Again, as we went through community meetings, we really tried to refine this plan based on those comments. When you're doing development and you're doing new single-family development especially, you're never going to make everybody happy, but we really tried our best to incorporate everything that we heard. We heard a lot of concerns about density. Again, we dropped that density to the last public speaker's comment. We dropped the density from townhomes to single-family residential, tried to front those on existing right-of-ways to give that old feel look. That if we go back and you look at the renderings, that's really what we tried to do with the proposal. We also incorporated that intermittent stream that the gentleman talked about into the plan. To the south side, you saw it on the concept plan, and we're actually making it part of the development and a part of the amenity feature that folks can go and enjoy at the end of the cul-de-sac. We do understand the concern about traffic. However, traffic comes with any development. This is part of your downtown, and so it's part of an existing gridded network. And to Mr. Moore's comment, we will, as part of this development, if recommended by your road department, do and implement a traffic study, which will serve to ameliorate any of those issues that may arise. So we ask you to, on that point, defer it to planning or defer it to the permitting stage when a full traffic study is done and that the recommendations of that can be implemented. So with that, again, I'd ask you to vote consistent with your staff's recommendation. You have a well-reasoned and thorough, robust staff report in your agenda packet, which recommends approval but for that future land use map and consistency. You also passed earlier tonight or recommended approval on a procedural mechanism to change the future land use map. I won't rehash, but we think that that future land use map on that southern parcel is warranted to be changed to be consistent with the future land use map of the designation of the parcels that it touches to the north. So if you follow staff's recommendation, if you follow the procedural mechanism that you recommended approval on earlier tonight, I think you get to a point where the overwhelming direction is a recommendation of approval with staff's recommended conditions, conditioned upon the future land use map amendment. And that would be the inaugural run of your future land use map procedure. So thank you so much. Again, Freedom Builders, we appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and be a part of the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You were going to make a comment? Actually, go ahead, Denise.
Just one general comment regarding the 4.9 acres parcel. Staff does not recommend that that parcel be rezoned. So I just want to make sure that part is clear. Staff also does not recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of a request that does not align with the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I think public comments sadly are closed.
Oh,
So.
I know, but I was going to ask for a point of privilege from the chair as a final comment. I'll keep it under 2 minutes, sir.
Staff,
Mr. Brooks, we can certainly, can you keep it under 2 minutes?
promise?
2 minutes.
Okay, all right.
Start the clock. In 1964, the Urban Mass Transit Act did away with streetcars and trolley cars. It was from top down from the federal government, and there were only 2 cities, San Francisco, the San Francisco Trolley, and New Orleans, the trolley on Canal Street, because they had the foresight to save things and keep them where they were. People long ago put the code or the rating on this property, and we need to keep it that way so we protect the environment and the community and the little animals, because it's nice to see the butterflies and the bees and the birds. I know you may be far removed from it, but be like San Francisco and New Orleans and send a no recommendation to City Council that this does not comply and it's not consistent with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. History lesson as well. Thank you very much. I think we've heard from the applicant, from public comments, from staff, also from the applicant again, a final public comment. So I think, do we have another one? Can we do?
I think we have one more comment.
Okay, one more comment.
Good evening. I'm Molly Mayfield with Landmark Christian. I thought it might be appropriate to clarify a few statements that were made tonight, as well as ask for some consideration on the rezoning request. One, we do have a lot of staff and parents who are looking to move to this area, and there are very limited opportunities for them to do so. So we do feel like there are a lot of quality families that would like to participate in Fairburn and contribute and be a part of this community that I think would benefit Fairburn. We are not disputing that there are utility challenges. We've experienced those. We had so many power surges last week, it blew up 4 air conditioners. We have water outages where we've had to close a school. So we're not debating that. We know those will present additional challenges for the city. But I do want people to understand that this is a high demand area for people to settle with limited opportunities. And the crime is not up in our area. I can tell you that our campus has had two crimes in the last 5 years. So I think our Fairburn Police Department do an excellent job in our community. So I wanted to be on record with that. The last thing is, Landmark bought this piece of property, the 4 acres, from the city of Fairburn, which was institutional. We are an institution, and so the city has arbitrarily rezoned it to residential. And so it was never used by the city as residential, nor has Fairburn ever used it as residential. And so I think that when we say that the intent was for it to be residential, that is an untruth. That may be what the city thinks is best future use, but that is an untruth that that's what it was used for. So I just wanted to go on record with that. Thank you.
Thank you. And to clarify, did you mean rural versus residential? Yes, I meant rural. Okay, just point of clarification. I thought that's...
Houses on that property, and 2 of them burned down.
Mr. Brooks, the comments are closed. We have to keep order now.
Yeah. We have to keep some semblance. They don't give me the mayor gavel. They would make, The chair wouldn't show up on the night that, okay, awesome. Okay, so I think just to recap, we've had the staff recommendation, we've had open comments, we'd have the applicant, we've had other open comments, we've had the applicant, we've had other open comments and staff clarifications, right? So commissioners, you've had your opportunity. Are there any final questions from you, commissioners?
No questions, but I do have a comment.
Okay, sure. Go for it.
As mentioned earlier, it is tough for us to make decisions like this because we're citizens of Fairburn as well. And the job of this board is to determine, because we know we want growth. We know we need rooftops. We know we need things to come to Fairburn in order to grow. But not all growth is good growth sometimes. We know that, right? But it's I'll just put it this way. It is really tough. I mean, we have a lot of elderly citizens who have lived here way longer than any of us have, and it's not fair, for people to be displaced or taxes to increase because we need growth. So it's really tough, and I just wanted to say that we're going to find the balance here, but it is tough to consider everything that we have before us. But we're going to do a good job of that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, there are no additional questions, discussions. I will now call this item, or if someone would like to put forth a motion for a vote to recommend approval or denial or approval with conditions, but we've already gone through all of that. Does anyone have a motion? Commissioners, motion?
As it stands, we have been, your suggestion is not to rezone this piece of land, correct?
Staff's recommendation is approval of the rezoning for parcels, for the parcels that are zoned R3, with the conditions listed in the report. But given the conflict with the future land use map, staff does not recommend the request to rezone the 4.9 acres be approved because it does not align with our comprehensive plan.
Okay. I move to support staff's recommendation.
Commissioner Echols, second.
Legal, is that enough of a?
Just say, I make a motion to approve as recommend, or make a recommendation to approve as recommended by staff.
Okay. I make a motion to approve, I'm sorry. Say that.
Make a motion to recommend to council the parcel rezone to, what is it, R3, Denise?
R3 to RTHC.
R3 to RTHC. As recommended by staff.
Okay. All righty. I make a recommendation to council that we go along with staff's recommendation to not zone the parcel of land from R3 to RTC.
Waiting for legal.
One moment.
Point of order. I did not hear anyone discuss the concurrent variance to the rezoning.
Yes.
Does staff have a recommendation as
Yes.
to that?
Staff does recommend approval of the variance, concurrent variance with the request.
Okay, all right, I was going through that. So we'll include that in the
motion.
we can do it all in one?
Yes.
Okay. Let's try that again, right, if you would like to, and then add in the
Can we
concurrent.
just do this, Denise, why don't you state your staff's recommendation, and then when you finish, Commissioner, you can say, I make the motion as recommended by staff.
There we go.
Based on staff's evaluation of the request, the Department of Planning and Zoning recommends approval of the rezoning for the parcels 09F1009005200332 and parcel identified as 09F1009005200340 and parcel 09F1009005200357 with the conditions listed in the report. Staff also recommends approval of the concurrent variance request. Staff does not recommend approval of the parcel, which conflicts with the future land use map and totals 4.9 acres as identified in the survey provided by the applicant. That is parcel 09F10090052017, with the conditions that were listed in the report.
Stay there.
It's recommended by staff.
I make my motion to accept, as recommended by staff. Just put that.
Commissioner Echols, second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you so much. I think that is the last item for now. Commissioners, let me just double check. Old business, new business. Yes. Phew. Okay. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn the public meeting.
Commissioner Smith, make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Echols, second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you.